advantage. Absolute advantage. Absolute advantage refers to a situation where an economic agent, people, business, or a country is able to produce more of a good or service than the other economic agents or countries using the same amount of resources. So if two countries have the same amount of resources, probably let's say human resource, they have 100 people, but one country is able to use that 100 people to produce 1 million tons of cocoa, and the other country, the same 100 people, is able to use them to produce 100,000 tons of cocoa. A country that is able to use 100 people to produce 1 million tons of cocoa has an absolute advantage over the other country that produces less. That is how it works. So for example, the production of maize by Ghana and Nigeria, if Ghana is able to produce 200,000 metric tons and Nigeria is able to produce 500,000 metric tons, that means Nigeria has absolute advantage in the production of maize. So this is a taxonomy. So Ghana can decide to produce maize, and with the same labor productivity or with the same number of people in the country, Ghana can produce 200,000 metric tons, and the production of maize, Nigeria can produce 500,000 metric tons. The combined output will be 700,000. When it comes to cocoa, Ghana will be able to produce 1 million, whilst Nigeria produces 300,000. So the combined output is 1.3 million metric tons. So Adam Smith advised that, looking at this, Ghana has an absolute advantage in the production of cocoa, and Nigeria has an absolute advantage in the production of maize. Adam Smith advised that Ghana, for instance, should go into an agreement with Nigeria that we will trade. So because Ghana is not very good in the production of maize, they should stop, and all the labor who used to produce maize should now go and join hands with those who are producing cocoa, so that more cocoa can be produced. Whilst Nigerians should stop producing maize and focus on the production, should stop producing cocoa and focus on the production of maize, because Nigeria has absolute advantage in the production of maize. By that, it is expected that the combined output will increase. Maize, for instance, should go beyond 700,000 metric tons, and cocoa should go beyond 1.3 million metric tons. So let's see what the result will be when these countries are made to specialize. Ghana, instead of producing 100 metric tons of cocoa, 1 million metric tons of cocoa, Ghana is now able to produce 2 million metric tons of cocoa. So for cocoa, the combined output is 2 million, as compared to at first the combined output, which was 1.3 million metric tons. The absolute advantage has increased the combined output. On the other hand, Nigeria focuses on the production of maize. Nigeria was able to produce 500,000 metric tons, but now is able to produce 1 million metric tons. So the combined output also is 1 million, which is higher than what it used to be. So by this, since Ghana is focusing on the production of cocoa and Nigeria is focusing on the production of maize, the combined output for them, both of them, have increased, and Ghana can supply Nigeria with some cocoa, whilst Nigeria supplies Ghana with some maize. So that is how it works. The second term or second concept is comparative advantage. This one was reiterated by David Ricardo. A country can have absolute advantage in the production of two commodities, but it doesn't mean that that country should keep producing those two commodities and not trade with anyone. That country should look for what it has not just absolute advantage but comparative advantage in. Yeah, so let me just give an example. Still using Ghana. So if Ghana has absolute advantage in the production of two products, Ghana, this is a combination, this is a comparison of Ghana and Benin. So for instance, Ghana is able to use 20 units of labor to produce 1 metric ton of cocoa, and is able to use 30 units of labor to produce 1 metric ton of maize. Benin is able to use 80 units of people or labor to produce 1 metric ton, and 60 units of labor to produce 1 metric ton of maize. Looking at Ghana, 20 people are able to produce 1 metric ton of cocoa, but 30 people are able to produce 1 metric ton of maize. Comparing Ghana to Nigeria to Benin, Ghana has absolute advantage in the production of the two products. But comparing cocoa production in Ghana and maize production in Ghana, Ghana has comparative advantage in the production of cocoa than in maize. So David Ricardo advises that Ghana should focus on the production of cocoa and leave the production of maize to Benin. Maybe by that the combined output will increase. In this case, the combined output is 2 metric tons of cocoa and 2 metric tons of maize. What happens if Ghana decides to focus on the production of cocoa because it has comparative advantage in it, whilst Benin decides to focus on the production of maize because they've gone into an agreement that if the combined output increases, Benin will supply Ghana with maize, whilst Ghana supplies Benin with cocoa. So this is the combined output after the specialization. As Ghana decided to focus on the production of cocoa, the metric tons of cocoa increased from 1 metric ton of cocoa to 2.5 metric tons of cocoa. So the combined output, which was at first 2 metric tons of cocoa, now is 2.5 metric tons of cocoa. And Benin, as it decided to focus on the production of maize, it was able to produce 2.33 metric tons of maize. Combined output is 2.33 metric tons of maize, which is better than the 2 metric tons of maize produced initially. So these are the major terms in international trade. Okay, and the next reason why nations trade amongst themselves is because of differences in resources. Every nation and the resources it is endowed with. Ghana, for instance, we are endowed with good land for cocoa. We are endowed with gold, timber, and others. So Nigeria, for instance, also is endowed with a lot of oil. So depending on the resource a country is endowed with, that country will be willing to export that resource in order to receive a different product its resources does not support it in its production. Okay, so we in international trade we have different international trade regimes, but before we move to that, we'll talk about trade restrictions. Trade restrictions are they are instruments that are used to either restrict importation of some goods such as rice and poultry in Nigeria, or restrict exports such as rare materials in China for various reasons. So they are instruments that are used to restrict either importation or exportation for very genuine reasons. So let's look at types of trade unions. We have tariff. Tariff is the instrument used to restrict or which is imposed on import. And quota. Quota is also an